Welcome. In today's video, we're going to be going from Mortal Kombat 1 all the way through Mortal Kombat 11 and talking about all the new characters introduced in each game and which ones in each game were my favorite and least favorite. So thanks for tuning in. Let's get to the topic. In Mortal Kombat 1, we had 7 playable characters introduced for the start of the franchise: Johnny Cage, Kano, Raiden, Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Sonya. My favorite of the original 7 is Sub-Zero. Of course, we would later learn this is Bi-Han. I prefer Kuai Liang Sub-Zero, but the mantle of Sub-Zero in general, the look, the gameplay, this is where Mortal Kombat began for me. Sub-Zero is my first favorite character in the franchise, and he's still in my top 10 overall. My least favorite at this point is probably Kano or Sonya. I feel like they both have continually been paired together story-wise, lacking real progression, and should sit out more than they do. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and it's been nearly 20 years since either has missed a game. Moving on to Mortal Kombat 2, they added 7 newly playable characters to the series in Kung Lao, Reptile, Shang Tsung, Katana, Jax, Mileena, and Baraka. These are some great additions, and often we see most of them making the majority of the games. My favorite of this new bunch is Reptile. I think when I was younger, I gravitated more towards Baraka, but over the years, I've really grown more to appreciate and love Mortal Kombat's original secret character. My least favorite, it's a bit hard to say. It's sort of like choosing between my children. I want to say Baraka or Kung Lao, just because I feel a little fatigued on both of them at this stage. Next, we had Mortal Kombat 3, and I'm counting the Ultimate version here. The new playable characters added this time were Nightwolf, Jade, Ermac, Sector, Sindel, Striker, Cyrax, Cabal, Shiva, and Smoke, for a total of 10, which I believe is tied for the most making their playable debut in a single game in the series. My favorite of this group is Cyrax. When I was younger, it was Sector because my favorite colors at the time were red and black, and his gameplay was a lot of fun, but over the years I started gravitating more towards Cyrax because of his quest for redemption. My username of Cyborg actually comes from my love of these characters. My least favorite would have to be Shiva. I don't hate her, she's just the one I care for the least in the bunch. Now before we continue on with this video, I do have one quick question for you. Do you like the timeline the way it is? Well, you better subscribe to our channel then in that case, because if you don't, I'm just gonna reset the timeline until you do. So subscribe and like the video, I'd greatly appreciate it. With Mortal Kombat 4, we were given 8 new characters. These were Kai, Shinnok, Reiko, Jarek, Tanya, Fujin, Quan Chi, and Meat. At the time when MK4 came out, I think I favored Reiko or Quan Chi the most of these new characters, mainly for their gameplay and designs. But then in more recent years, since starting this YouTube channel and doing the podcast, I've really grown to like Fujin the most. I was very happy to see him finally come back in MK11, and hope we see him as playable again in MK12. Jarek was my least favorite, since he was essentially a Kano clone. He's the only one I wouldn't care if we never saw him come back. In Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, we received 10 new characters, tied with Mortal Kombat 3. These are Bo' Rai Cho, Li Mei, Kenshi, Mavado, Natara, Draman, Suhao, Frost, Blaze, and Mocap. Kenshi would be my favorite character of this bunch, and is my second favorite character of the entire series. Frost would be a close second behind Kenshi, and she's in my top 5 favorite characters overall. So there's some great inclusions here. I have some love for Li Mei and Natara as well. I hope they all come back for Mortal Kombat 12, honestly. Especially the ones we have yet to get back, like Li Mei and Natara. The female characters in the 3D era, man, have some awesome designs, and there's a lot of potential there. For a long time, I preferred them even over the Trilogy era females, so it's unfortunate that we haven't seen them as much. My least favorite of this bunch is Mocap, but that's an easy answer. So if I were to put the joke character aside, I'd probably say my least favorite is Blaze. I thought he was a bit generic and lacking here. Some might think Suhao, but man, his fatality was sick, so I can't say that. Mortal Kombat Deception gave us a bunch of new playable characters again, 8 to be exact, or 10 if you want to throw in Shao Kahn and Goro, since this is their first mainline game where they became playable in a balanced standard roster sense, so I don't count Trilogy or MK4. It gets weird and complicated sometimes when doing lists like this. Anyway, the additions were Havoc, Shujinko, Hotaru, Ashura, Dairu, Cobra, Darius, and Kira. My favorite initially was Havoc, but then Ashura at some point took that spot. Would love to see both return for MK12, and my least favorite is Dairu. I just found his design to be rather boring and really started to bring on that feeling like they were running out of ideas. For Armageddon, we got 3 newly playable characters in Taven, Dagon, and Serena, plus Onaga and Moloch if you want to count them as well, for 5 technically. But of the main 3, my favorite was Serena. My least favorite was Taven. I just couldn't get into him or Dagon, and was feeling new character, 3D era lack of inspiration fatigue at this point, as I mentioned. Well, this is a little awkward. I reset the timeline, and yep. Skipping MK versus DC because, quite honestly, I don't even remember who of the DC cast I favorited. Probably Batman, but yes. Let's jump to MK9, who gave us Scarlet, Kratos, and Freddy as new debuts. Scarlet was cool. Not much to pick from here, so we'll move on. Mortal Kombat X gave us 10 new Mortal Kombat characters. Takeda, Cassie Cage, Jackie Briggs, Kung Jin, Aaron Black, Kotal Khan, Ferritor, Devora, Tremor, and Triborg. Plus 4 guest characters in Alien, Jason, Leatherface, and Predator. My favorite new character here is Devora. Some of these characters really restored my faith in NRS's creativity when it comes to new character designs. Devora was a standout because her design was so unique. My least favorite would probably be Triborg, because as a fan of the cyborgs, and Cyrax is my overall favorite character, it felt like they became less than a standard character by combining them all into one character as variations. I still feel like Triborg should have just been Sector, and he could have had variations of the others if they really wanted to go that route. And finally, Mortal Kombat 11 introduced us to just 3 new characters, Garrus, Collector, and Cetrion. Then a handful of guests in Spawn, Robocop, Rambo, and Terminator, then Joker, who doesn't count since he was playable in vs. DC. Of these 3, I really liked Collector. He was super cool design-wise and had a lot of personality. He feels like a Mortal Kombat character. My least favorite of these was Cetrion. I'd be all for an Earth-based Poison Ivy, Mother Earth type of character, but unfortunately her gameplay and story just felt flat or just, kind of lacking. You didn't like the video or subscribe, did you? I mean, look at this. What is going on around here? Anyways, those are my favorite and least favorite characters of each Mortal Kombat game in the game that they debuted as new playable characters. Let me know in the comments below what your picks would be, and I will catch you on the next one.